Intermediate JavaScript modules. Hello, modules. JavaScript modules are reusable pieces of code that can be exported from one program and imported for use in another program. Modules are particularly useful for a number of reasons. By separating code with similar logic into files called modules, we can find, fix, and debug code more easily, reuse and recycle defined logic in different parts of our application, keep information private and protected from the other modules, and, importantly, prevent pollution of the global namespace and potential naming collisions by cautiously selecting variables and behavior we load into our program, or into a program. In this lesson, we'll cover two ways to implement modules in JavaScript: Node.js's module.export and require syntax, as well as the ES6 import/export syntax. Instructions. Once you feel like you have a high-level understanding of modules, proceed to the next exercise. Well, let's proceed to that exercise. Module.exports. We can get started with modules by defining a module in one file and making the module available for use in another file with Node.js module.exports syntax. Every JavaScript file run in Node has a local module object with an exports property used to define what should be exported from the file. Below is an example of how to define a module and how to export it using the statement module.exports. In menu.js, we write, let menu equal empty object. Menu.specialty equals the string roasted beet burger with mint sauce. Module.exports equals menu. Let's consider what this code means. 1. Let menu equal empty object creates the object that represents the module menu. The statement contains an uppercase variable named menu, which is set equal to an empty object. Menu.specialty is defined as a property of the menu module. We add data to the menu object by setting properties on that object and giving the properties a value. 3. Roasted beet burger with mint sauce is the value stored in the menu.specialty property. Module.exports equals menu exports the menu object as a module. Module is a variable that represents the module and exposes the module as an object. The pattern we use to export modules is thus: 1. Create an object to represent the module. 2. Add properties or methods to the module object. 3. Export the module with module.exports. Let's create our first module. Instructions. Let's begin by implementing the pattern above in an example. In 1-airplane.js, create an object named airplane. Okay, so const airplane equals an empty object and includes that statement. Let's run. Within the same file, add a property to the airplane object named myAirplane and set it equal to starjet. Okay, so we will say airplane.myAirplane equals starjet. And they use double quotes. They are very, very strict. I've really noticed that. So I'm just going to try to do the double quotes with them there. Let's run that. That worked. Export the module. Well, that was the name of this section. It was module.exports equals, and then the airplane, the object that we're exporting. Let's make sure I'm right. Great, let's move on to the next lesson. Require. To make use of the exported module and the behavior we define within it, we import the module into another file. In Node.js, use the require function to import modules. For instance, say we want the module to control the menu's data and behavior, and we want a separate file to handle placing an order. we could create a separate file, order.js, and import the menu module from menu.js to order.js using require. Require takes a file path argument pointing to the original module file. In order.js, we could write const menu equals require, and it opens up parentheses, and inside of there is a string that is /menu.js. Then it says function placeholder, that's a function, and in the function body is console.log, and there's a string of my order is plus the menu.specialty, and when they call place order at the bottom, we don't actually see the result yet, but I'm sure they're about to tell us. We now have the entire behavior of menu available in order.js. Here we notice 1. In order.js, we import the module by creating a const variable called menu and setting it equal to the value of the require function. We can set the name of this variable to anything we like, such as menu items. 2. Require is a JavaScript function that loads a module. Its argument is a file path of the module, ./menu.js with require. The .js extension is optional and will be assumed if it is not included. 3. The placeOrder function then uses the menu module. By calling menu.specialty, we access the property specialty defined in the menu module. Taking a closer look, the pattern to import a module is 1. Import the module with require and assign it to a local variable. 2. Use the module and its properties within a program. Instructions. 1. In 1-missioncontrol.js, use the require function to import the airplane module from 1-airplane.js. Recall that you will need to use the precise name of the file that contains the module. Well, they gave us that there, that's this. I will just copy it. Okay, so we're going to have a const, we'll call it airplane, that will equal require. And inside of require, we're going to do a string, and the string is going to say /1-airplane.js, and I will put a semicolon after, and we'll run that. And that didn't work. It could be because of the quotes. Actually, I could see it's going to be because I didn't put period. It was /. So let's run that. Yeah, that does work. Okay, great. Make sure we put a period before we put the /. 2. In 1-missioncontrol.js, define a function displayAirplane. In the function, log the value of the module and its property to the console. Okay, so we want to make a function called displayAirplane. We'll do a fat arrow one. So displayAirplane equals the fat arrow function. And inside of this fat arrow, we're going to log the console.log, we know that, the property. So we want the property of airplane. I'm guessing the property that we made. Okay, so it would be airplane dot, I think it was my airplane is the property they're probably looking for here. Okay, well, let's check it. Let's see. No, we're getting a problem here. We have a syntax error. Oh, yeah, that's that. That's a fat arrow function now. Perfect. Okay. Call the displayAirplane function in the console. You should see the name of the airplane you defined in the module. Okay, so let's display airplane as a function. That's us calling it there. We run that. Starjet, that is the plane that we made. Let's go to the next lesson. Module.exports 2. We can also wrap any collection of data and functions in an object and export the object using module.exports. In menu.js, we could write module.exports equals, it opens an object that has specialty, a string of roasted beet burger with mint sauce, a get specialty that has a function, and the function is returning this dot specialty. In the above code, notice 1. Module.exports exposes the current module as an object. Specialty and get specialty are properties on the object. Then in order.js, we write const menu equals require, and in that require, there are quotes around a dot/menu.js. console.log menu.getSpecialty. Here, we can still access the behavior in the menu module. Instructions. In 2-airplane.js, set module.exports equal to an empty object. Okay, module.exports will equal an empty object, and then I will semicolon to close that. That worked. 2. Within the object, create a key called myAirplane and set it to the value CloudJet. Okay. You want a key that is myAirplane, and we'll set it to a value called CloudJet. And that should work. Let's run that. That did work. Again, within module.exports, create another key, display airplane, and set it to an anonymous function. The function should use the this statement to return myAirplane. Okay, so we're going to comma to that, comma to the next one. It's going to be display airplane. We're going to set it equal to a function, and we're just going to actually use a regular function here, like so. The function should use the this statement to return. So we're going to return this dot my airplane. Let's see if we did that correctly for them. No, we did not. We have a display airplane. Well, let's take a look at how they did it so we could see if we did anything wrong here. Okay, so they had get specialty, and we did that exactly the same. They did comma to it as well. We have our function, our open, and then our body here. They might just be picking on this. Let's check that. Wow, that's a very, you're not going to have to do these very often. It gets taken care of by like VS Code or something. But yeah, they're very, very strict. Okay, so 4, in 2-missioncontrol.js, use the require function to import the airplane module. Okay, so that's this file here. We're going to const airplane again will equal require. Inside of there, it is a dot slash and then 2-airplane. I'm going to write .js. I know they said that we could not write that if we didn't want to, but it seems like this is crazy strict. So let's try that out. That worked. Okay. 5. In 2-missioncontrol.js, log the result of calling .displayAirplane to the console, noting that it is a method in the airplane object. Okay, so we want to say console.log, then airplane dot, it was display, right? Display airplane. Let's try that out. Let's run it. We have CloudJet up here, and it did pass. Okay, let's go on to the next lesson. Export default. Node.js supports require/modules.export, but as of ES6, JavaScript supports a new, more readable and flexible syntax for exporting modules. These are usually broken down into one of two techniques, default export and named exports. We'll begin with the first syntax, default export. The default export syntax works similarly to the module.export syntax, allowing us to export one module per file. Let's look at an example in menu.js. Let menu equal an empty object. Export default menu. 1. Export default uses the JavaScript export statement to export JavaScript objects, functions, and primitive data types. 2. Menu refers to the name of the menu object, the object that we are setting the properties on within our modules. When using ES6 syntax, we use export default in place of module.exports. Node.js doesn't support export default by default, so module.exports is usually used for Node.js development and ES6 syntax is used for front-end development. As with most ES6 features, it is common to transpile code since ES6 is not supported by all browsers. Instructions. 1. In airplane.js, let's create an airplane module from scratch, this time exporting the module with export default. Create an object to represent the module called airplane. Okay, so const airplane is going to equal an object, and I'll put the semicolon and run that. Now that we have an object airplane, we can continue by adding data in the form of properties and values to the airplane module. Create an available airplanes variable, I'm going to copy that, and set it equal to an empty array. Be sure that available airplanes is a property of the airplane object. Okay, so here, available airplanes and empty array. And that should be it. Let's just run that, make sure. Great. 3. In the available airplanes array, add 2 array elements that are both of type object. Okay, let's do that first. So we'll put an object here, and then we will comma, and we'll put an object here. The first object should contain a property name with the value arrowjet. Let's do that first. Name arrowjet, and they seem to have single quotes around that one. And then it was fuel capacity, and I'm commenting to that. Fuel capacity. That will be the value 800. The second object should have the properties name with the value skyjet, so name skyjet, and there's no quotes around this one, so I'm not sure. We'll see. And the fuel capacity, that will be 500. Now, when it comes to single quotes and double quotes, this is my note, not in the video. You could do either one. It's just causing errors with their transpilation or whatever they're doing to kind of grade this. When you're doing this anywhere else, you could do either one, so don't worry too much about that. I don't want to make that into like a JavaScript thing that you're all worried about, so don't worry about that. So I'm just going to see if this passes by running it. Oh, great, that did work. 4. Use export default to export the airplane module. Okay, so export default airplane. Nice work. We added a property that lists the available airplanes to the airplane module. Well, let's run it and see if we did nice work. We did. All right, move on to the next lesson. Import. ES6 module syntax also introduces the import keyword for importing objects. In our order.js example, we import an object like this. Import menu from /menu. 1. The import keyword begins the statement. 2. The keyword menu here specifies the name of the variable to store the default export in. 3. From specifies where to load the module from. 4. /menu is the name of the module to load. When dealing with local files, it specifically refers to the name of the file without the extension of the file. We can then continue using the menu module in the order.js file. Instructions. 1. In missioncontrol.js, we'll use the module airplane to display the fuel capacity for both our airplanes. Use the import keyword to import the airplane module. Okay, so that was import airplane from, and then we find it. So /, I'm not sure which the last one was. That was 2-airplane. I remember working on 1 and 2. I'm guessing it's just airplane. So let's do that one. Get that out of the way. /airplane. And it said that we don't need to do the .js. So let's run it, see what happens. Yep, that works perfectly. 2, define a function, display fuel capacity. Okay. Const, and I will copy this. Display fuel capacity and fat arrow function. There you are. Let's run it. Great. Number 3. Within the body of the display fuel capacity function, use for each to iterate over the airplane.avalableAirplanes array. The for each should take an anonymous function as a parameter. We'll add more in the next step. All right, well, let's do that. Okay, so airplane.available airplanes for each, and should take an anonymous function as a parameter. Okay, so the for each will take an anonymous function as a parameter, and there's an anonymous arrow function. I'm going to hope that's what they mean. Let's give it a shot. That is what they mean. Okay. Pass the anonymous function you created in the last step a parameter of element. Element. Okay, that's your parameter. 5. Within the display fuel capacity function, use console.log to output the element's name and its fuel capacity. The output should look like this. Fuel capacity of plus element name. Okay, I see what they're looking for here. If you want to look at this here, it's saying fuel capacity of, and then it's saying the element's name, and then it's asking us to put the element's fuel capacity. Okay, so we will say, I'm just going to do this with the console.log and backticks. I think the backticks are the way to go. So fuel capacity of, I don't think they actually want the plus there, so I'm just going to $, open and close curly braces, element dot name, and after that they want a element, so another curly braces here. I'll make sure you put those 2 dots in there on the in-between. They do want these here. Now here they want element dot fuel capacity. All right, let's give that a shot and see if I wrote that correctly. This is very ugly looking. Let me okay, so it takes the element, we have the fat arrow pointing to the function body. All right, this looks a little cleaner, just a little better. Let's run that. There we go. Call the display fuel capacity function. Okay, so display fuel capacity invoked, and let's run that. That's great. So we have fuel capacity of Aerojet is 800. Fuel capacity of Skyjet is 500. And that's what we wrote in on the last lesson. Let's go to the next one. Named exports. ES6 introduced a second common approach to export modules. In addition to export default, named exports allow us to export data through the use of variables. Let's see how this works. In menu.js, we would be sure to give each piece of data a distinct variable name. Let specialty equal empty string. Function is vegetarian is empty, function is low sodium is also empty, export, and then it opens up curly braces, puts in specialty, comma, is vegetarian. 1. Notice that When we use named exports, we are not setting the properties on an object. Each export is stored in its own variable. 2. Specialty is a string object, while isVegetarian and isSodium are objects in the form of functions. Recall that in JavaScript, every function is in fact a function object. 3. Export, curly braces, specialty, comma, isVegetarian, exports objects by their variable names. Notice the keyword export is the prefix. 4. Specialty and isVegetarian are exported while isLowSodium is not exported, since it is not specified in the export syntax. So they're saying isLowSodium isn't down here. So it would be exported if it were added to this here, it would be exported. Okay. Remove the statement that sets airplane to an empty object and remove the entire export default line. Okay, so the first one and the last one. We'll run that. 2. Modify the available airplanes array such that it is a variable defined with let and no longer a property on the airplane object. Okay, that was this array here. So we'll get rid of airplane, we'll write let before it, and that's what they asked for. That worked. Number 3. Let's add some more data to the available airplanes array. In the first object, ArrowJet, add a property available staff, and set it equal to an array with the elements, and there's quite a few elements in here: pilots, flight attendants, engineers, medical assistants, and sensor operators. Okay, so let's go to that next. So available staff. And that's going to be an array with all of this stuff in it. Let me just pop them in there like so, take out the end, and I think we're good. Okay. In the second object, Skyjet, I didn't put it in the object. I see what they're asking now. So in ArrowJet's going to have its own available staff, and the second object of Skyjet, they're going to have their own available staff as well. So they'll have a property called available staff, and set it equal to an array with the following elements. And that just has 2. One is pilots, and the second one is flight attendants. And let's run that. That worked. 4. Define a new variable with let named flight requirements and set it equal to an empty object. A new variable. I'm guessing after this. Okay, so let flight requirements equal an empty object. So like so. Let's run that. 5. Within the flight requirements object, add a property required staff and set this equal to 4. Okay, so required staff. It's called 4. Run that. 6. Define a function with the name meets staff requirements that takes available staff and required staff as parameters. Okay, so we'll do a fat arrow function again. Meet staff requirements. Finish our fat arrow function. The parameters in there are available staff and required staff. Let's try that out. Number 7. In the body of the meets staff requirements function, write logic to check if the length of the available staff array is greater than or equal to required staff. The function should contain this logic. If length of available staff is greater than or equal to required staff, return true, else return false. Okay, so if the length of available staff, so available staff dot length is greater than or equal to required staff dot length, we will return true, else return false. Let's try that out. We have an error here. Let's see what we did wrong. Return true, return false. Required staff dot, oh, I put dot length here, and if you see required staff is a number, we don't need dot length. Let's get rid of that. Yeah, okay, required staff is a number. Let's see if that fixes it. Yeah, that does fix it. Great. Let's move on to number 8. Using the export keyword, export the variables available airplanes, flight requirements, and meets staff requirements. So export, then we open up our brackets and we put those in there. We have available airplanes, comma, flight requirements, comma, meets staff requirements. And let's run that. What could the issue be? I'm going to guess they want a semicolon at the end. Let's do that. Okay, again, not something you'll have to do normally when coding in VS Code, but I guess it's a good habit to do your own semicolon, so there's no parsing errors. Let's go to the next one. Named imports. To import objects stored in a variable, we use the import keyword and include the variables in a set of brackets, well, curly brackets. In the order.js file, for example, we could write import, and then they put up their curly braces, specialty, comma, is vegetarian from /menu, then console.log specialty. 1. Here, specialty and is vegetarian are imported. 2. If we did not want to import either of these variables, we could omit them from the import statement. 3. We can then use these objects as in within our code. We can then use these objects within our code, I think is what they're saying. For example, we would use specialty instead of menu.specialty. Okay, yeah, so we are deconstructing from menu there. We're just taking these pieces themselves. So you don't have to say it's from the menu anymore. Like those default ones were coming from, say, airplane. So we had to write airplane.available airplanes like we did right here. Okay, so instructions. 1. Let's remove any reference to airplane in our code since we are no longer exporting this module. Okay, so airplane needs to go. I'll take, let's just take this airplane. We can't have a dot. Is there any more airplanes? I think that's it. Okay. For example, airplane.available airplanes should be modified to available airplanes. Again, you will see a reference error in the console for now, but we will fix that in our next step. Okay, let's run this. Good. Number 2, change the import statement such that it imports the available airplanes, flight requirements, and meets staff requirements. Okay, let's do that. Import our braces there, available airplanes, flight requirements, and meets staff requirements from the airplane. Now modify any instance of the airplane.avalableAirplanes variable so that you can use available airplanes. That's just this one instance. So I think we're good there. I already took that out. We can run it. Great, let's go on to number 3. Define a function. Display staff status. Okay, define a function. We'll do it right here. You know, maybe we should do it under everything. We have a fuel capacity one. How about const display staff status? And that's a function. Let's run that. That works. 4. Within the body of the display staff status function, use the for each to iterate over the available airplanes array. Okay. Specifically, the for each should take a function as a parameter. The function should in turn take element as a parameter. Okay, so we want to use the for each to iterate over available airplanes. Available airplanes dot for each, and we were going to pass it element. Well, we need to pass it a function with element as a parameter. So I'll wrap element, and I will point like so, and there's our body of our function. Let's run that. No, I did that wrong. I'm going to guess that they didn't want it the way I just did it. Let's do this as a actual regular function, like so. Function takes an element, and then there's the body of it. That looks good to me. I'm going to drop a semicolon here. That's not it either. Wow, this one is confusing. What do they want here? Function display, that's what we have. Available airplanes.for each function element. This is the same thing. I'll copy this in. Let's see what we did wrong. Run. No, that's not working either. Maybe they don't want a fat arrow function. Let's assume they don't want a fat arrow function, and write function display staff status. Yeah, I guess they didn't want a fat arrow function, or maybe I was doing something else wrong that I didn't even notice. But this one works, so let's move on to number 5. Within the display staff status function, use console.log to output the element's name. We'll add more in the next step. Okay, so display staff status, we need to get the element's name. So in here, console.log element.name. Let's run that. That one works. 6. Continuing within the display staff status function, modify the console.log statement to output element name plus meets staff requirements plus true or false. So I started to do this all kind of in line, and I know that it was getting ugly, it was hard to read, and I didn't want to make it ugly and hard to read for everyone. So I'm going to do it one more time, but I'm not going to do it in line like I did. I'm going to make a const that is equal to the meets staff requirements, and we're going to pass into there element dot available staff, comma to flight requirements dot required staff. Okay, so that should, well, what I call it, I'll call it Boolean. I'll just call it bool, because it's a Boolean value, either true or false, and that is going to equal either true or false there. So we'll store the answer in this const called bool, and then we will console log all of this. And I'll do this with backticks. So we'll backtick and element dot name, and it goes to meet staff requirements with a space, and then we want our true or false, which we listed as bool, and let's make sure we interpolate that string. Okay, well, let's see if that works for us. Let's run it. And for some reason, we're frozen. Okay, let me, I'll copy this little piece of code here at the end. Copy that guy, just in case it's not there anymore. I'll restart it. Okay, I'm glad I copied it. Let's paste it in and run. See what happens. Nope, we fail there. Did you write a console log statement to log the element's name to the console and whether it meets staff requirements? I thought that I did. Let me actually, outside of this, display staff status. And let's call that and actually see what gets printed. Oh, it says I spelled flight requirements wrong. That would definitely be why this is not working. Okay, let me grab this, put it in flight requirements, and run that again. And that did work. Aerojet meets staff requirements, and that, and then either true or false. That is what's coming out here. But they're grading us with a X, so they're saying it's not what's coming out. I'm going to guess that they want us to do it with the plus sign string interpolation, but either should be valid. Let's get their hint again. Console.log element.name, which is the first thing we did right here. Element.name meets staff requirements. And then they wanted to do the meet staff requirements in the plus right there. Okay, so I think you see, maybe they didn't like that I did this, but I mean, it sure does work. Let me just try replacing that. I think this looks pretty ugly when we do it this way. Okay, I'll get rid of the bool. Let's see if they allow that. We'll run it again. And it works again, but it says no again. Well, let's copy their exact answer. That's what I'm going to do now and see if that passes, because we're getting to the point where we're getting the required statement there. Let's run that. Did that pass? That passed, and it says exactly the same thing. Okay, let's just say that didn't work for reasons. So we'll go down to call the display staff status function. I've been doing that already because we had no idea what was coming out. We didn't know what was wrong, so I've been displaying it already. We just have to run it one more time. There it is, and we can go to the next lesson. Export named exports. Named exports are also distinct in that they can be exported as soon as they are declared by placing the keyword export in front of variable declarations. In menu.js, export let specialty equal empty string. Export function is vegetarian is empty. Function is low sodium is an empty function as well. 1. The export keyword allows us to export objects upon declaration, as shown in export let specialty and export function is vegetarian. 2. We no longer need an export statement at the bottom of our file, since this behavior is handled above. Instructions. 1. Let's add some additional data to our airplane.js file. Continue by adding more data to objects within the available airplanes variable. There you are, you're the entirety of this. So what are we putting in? We're going to the first object, Aerojet, add a property max speed, and its value is 1200. That's Aerojet, it's this one. Okay, so you have your available staff, and we'll comma to a property called the max speed, and they said 1200. It also is getting a property min speed with the value 300. Min speed 300. Great. To the second object, Skyjet, add a property max speed with a value of 800 and a property min speed with a value of 200. Okay, so we're doing another max speed, min speed just right here after available staff, comma, and max speed, min speed. The max was 800, the min was 200. Let's run that. Great. To the next one, number 2. Within the flight requirements object, add a property required speed range and set this equal to 700. Okay, required speed range is in flight requirements. That's right here. Required speed range 700. And run that. Three. Continuing with the same file, add a new function meets speed range requirements that takes 3 arguments: max speed, min speed, and required speed range. Okay, so there's our function. I'll do that after, I'll just do that at the end here after this one. So const meet requirements, and let's try an arrow function, see if they allow it. It's going to take 3 arguments. Max speed, min speed, and required speed range. Let's run that. All right, that worked. 4. Within the meets speed range requirements function, create a variable range and set it to the difference between max speed and min speed. Okay. So we'll do a const of range, which is equal to max speed minus min speed. And that should just work. Let's run that. No, you create a variable range and set it equal to the difference between max speed and min speed. I made a const named range and set it equal to, oh no, max speed. That's definitely my fault that time. Or maybe it's not. Max speed, min speed. Maybe they want a var. Let's see if that's it. Var. No. Okay. Let's go back to the const and let's change this to function. And it's no longer a fat arrow function. We'll do it like that. And there'll be no more arrow. Let's try that. Okay, let's guess on maybe the semicolon. Let's try that. That's it. Okay. Number 5. In the body of the meets speed range requirements function, create logic to check if the range is greater than the required speed range. The function should contain this logic. If the range is greater than the required speed range, return true, else return false. So we will say if range greater than or equal to required speed range, that will be return true. Then we'll make our else after that. We'll put it in brackets and return false. Let's try that out. Oops, the test returned. Okay, so we did have an error here. It's probably a typo. I see a typo. This can't be 2 of them. And actually, wasn't it just, it's just greater. So it's not greater than or equal to. That was wrong either way. That was going to return poorly either way. return true, and let's do our semicolons as well. They've been sticklers for semicolons. Let's run it. All right, we got that one. Let's move on to number 6. Use export to export the variables as soon as they are declared, and remove the export statement at the bottom of the file. Okay, export statement at the bottom of the file has 3 things in it. Available airplanes. Where are you? Okay, so export let available airplanes. The next one was flight requirements. Let's find flight requirements. Export flight requirements. Meets staff requirements. That's this one. Export const meets staff requirements. And then they want to remove this export statement. Let's run that. Did you export meets speed range requirements? All right, well, let's do that too. Export function meets speed range requirements. There we go. Next. Import named imports. To import variables that are declared, we simply use the original syntax that describes the variable name. In other words, exporting upon declaration does not have an impact on how we import the variables. Import, and then in curly braces, specialty, comma, is vegetarian from menu. Instructions. Add meets speed range requirements to the import statement at the top of the file. Here we go. We'll copy that and comma to it and run. 2. Define a function. Display speed range status. We'll do that at the end. And I'm going to do it as a normal function now. Display speed range status. Like so, and run that. Within the display speed range status function, use the for each method to iterate over each element in the available airplanes array. Again, the for each should take a function as a parameter. This function should take element as a parameter. Okay, so we're going to have a for each. And we're taking in our for each a available airplanes dot for each, and it takes element as a parameter. Oh, let's do it as let's do this as a function as well, like so, and element. Inside there, we're going to iterate over every element in each. And inside there, we're going to do nothing so far. This is just to make this function. Let's just run this. And we have an error here. Did we pass function as a, we pass it as a parameter. Oh, that's interesting. All right, let me move this back a bit. There's a space in element. Let's run that. They're allowing that. Great, that works perfectly. Let's go now to for. Within the display speed range status function, use console.log to output the element's name. Okay, so here, console.log element.name. Let's run that. And did you write console.log statement and the element's name to the console? Yeah, I did. Maybe you have to put my semicolon in. No, I don't think they wanted that semicolon. Let's try a semicolon that ends this as well. Run that. Wow. These semicolons causing issues for people who are taking their first JavaScript course is a very poor way to teach this. It's probably scaring people away. That's not how real programming works. Don't worry about this. I really hope this doesn't make you feel like programming is going to be real tough. It's nothing like this. This is over the top on how poorly this treats your writing. So don't worry much about this. This is teaching us a lot. We're learning all about these different types of imports and stuff like that. So don't give up. Follow along with me. I'll get you through this. I will finish this with you. So just follow along with me. We'll get through this part. And it seems like each one of these parts are written by probably different people because some of them respond very well. And this one is incredibly strict. And it's making it so that you have to know where you have to do it in the syntax that they want it to be in, and with the semicolons exactly where they should be, where that's usually auto completed for you and done. So please don't let this scare you at all. Let's keep going with number 5. Continue within the display speed range status function. Modify the console.log statement to output a statement like this. Element name plus meets speed range requirements plus true/false. To do this, we can call the meet speed range requirements method, passing the 3 parameters, element.maxSpeed, element.minSpeed, and flight requirements.requiredSpeedRange. Okay, we can do that, and let's remember to do it in their very, very strict way where they want the plus signs and everything as well. Okay, so we'll console.log, well, it's starting with element.name plus single quote meets speed range requirements and a space there, and then plus the statement that's going to return a true or false for us here. So let's do that. Meets speed range requirements. And that should take element and then dot max speed, comma, element dot min speed, comma, and then this entire thing. That's a very long name, and I might typo it, so I pasted it in there. Let's see if we could do this. Run. Nope, that's not it. Let's log this by running it, seeing if we did anything wrong at all. Okay, yeah, we're just console logging the name, so I have a typo in here for sure. Yeah, right here. We'll get rid of that. We'll put it here at the end so that everything's within the console log and run that. And ours works. The Aerojet meets it, Skyjet. Oh no, here are the range requirements. Yeah, it does work. Did I miss anything? I missed these 2 dots. Okay. Requirements, 2 dots, run. That works. Okay, great. Number 6, call the display speed range status function. I did that already, so we could check our stuff, and there it is. Next lesson. Export as. Named exports also conveniently offer a way to change the name of variables when we export or import them. We can do this with the as keyword. Let's see how this works in our menu.js example. Let specialty equal empty string. Let vegetarian equals a function. Let's just go to the export at the end here. Okay, so export, and they open their curly braces, and they're exporting specialty as chef's specialty. They export is vegetarian as is veg, and is low sodium does not get an as. In the above example, take a look at the export statement at the bottom of the file. Let's just keep that in there. 1. The as keyword allows us to give a variable name an alias as demonstrated in specialty as chef specialty and is vegetarian as is veg. 2. Since we did not give is low sodium an alias, it will maintain its original name. Instructions. 1. Remove the keyword export in front of each variable name since we will no longer need it. Okay, so everywhere it says export, cool trick for this, press Command D or probably Control D if you're on a PC, and this will pass in all the exports, and just press delete, and then go forward one, back one more, and you should be in good shape there. Let's run that. Okay. 2. Add an export statement that export the available airplane object as aircrafts. Okay, they have several of these. Let's do them one at a time. I'm going to head to the bottom, write export, open up my curly braces, and take the first one. Available airplane. We'll export as aircraft, all lowercase, aircraft, comma. The next one is flight requirements, okay. And we're going to do that as flight recs with an S. The meet staff requirements, and that's going to be meet staff recs, the same type of thing. So as for recs, and meets range requirements. We'll comment to that as meets range rec with an S at the end. Let's see if we did that correctly. Did you export each variable as its alias? Let's see. Available airplanes as aircrafts. Ah, there's an S. There's an S right here. That's probably it. Let's run that. Nope. Now, what could we be doing wrong here? I'm gonna guess it's one of these again. Let's just toss that at the end. And that's it, yet again. All right, let's go to the next lesson. Import as. To import named export aliases with the as keyword, we add the aliased variable in our import statement. Import, curly braces, chef special, comma, is veg, from /menu. In order.js, 1, we import chef's special and is veg from the menu object. 2, here note that we have an option to alias an object that was not previously aliased when exported. For example, the is low sodium object that we exported could be aliased with the as keyword when imported. Import, curly braces, is low sodium as salt-free from menu. Another way of using aliases is to import the entire module as an alias. Import asterisk or star as carte from /menu. Carte.chefspecial, carte.isveg, carte.islow sodium. 1. This allows us to import an entire module from menu.js as an alias, carte. 2. In this example, whatever name we exported would be available to us as properties of the module. For example, if we exported the aliases chef's special and is veg, these would be available to us. If we did not give an alias to is low sodium, we would call it as defined on the carte module. Instructions. Number 1. Within the body of missioncontrol.js, change each variable to its alias with the exception of the variable in the import statement. In the body, change available airplanes to aircrafts. Okay, where are you? Available airplanes. I'm doing the Command D thing again here. Available airplanes are now aircrafts. Flight requirements are now flight recs. Where's that first come in? Okay, so this is the first one. We'll paste over those. Flight recs. Meet staff requirement, meet staff recs. Where's the first one? Okay, right here. Yep, that's the only one in the body. paste over that one. And meets speed range requirements will be meets speed range recs. So let's find the first one. There looks to be only one. All right, let's run that. We did it. Let's move on to the second question. So now modify the import statement to import the exact thing that we just did. We could have done that at the same time. Okay, so we'll do aircrafts, flight recs, meets staff recs, meets staff recs, meets speed range recs. Okay, and run that. Good, let's move on to the next lesson. Combining export statements. We can also use named exports and default exports together. In menu.js, they have let specialty equal, and that's all the same. Let's go to exports. So export opens up a curly brace, specialty as chef special, is vegetarian as is veg, and they close that curly brace. Now export default is gluten-free. Now, there's a default export and an export of all these named things as well that are being renamed with the as keyword. Here we use the keyword export to export the named exports at the bottom of the file. Meanwhile, we export the isGlutenFree variable using the export default syntax. This would also work if we exported most of the variables as declared and exported others with the export default syntax. And it seems to be the same exact thing, except they're doing now the single exports in line. So export let menu equal empty object, and so on. Here we use the export keyword to export the variables upon declaration, and again export the isGlutenFree variable using the export default syntax. While it's better to avoid combining two methods of exporting, it is useful on occasion. For example, if you suspect developers may only be interested in importing a specific function and won't need to import the entire default export. Instructions. 1. In airplane.js, use the export keyword to export available airplanes, flight requirements, and meets staff requirements as soon as they are declared. Okay, we're going to export you here. Export flight requirements is exported. Meets staff requirements, they want that exported. And meets staff requirements, that's the meets speed range requirements. I think that's all three. Okay, let's run that. 2. Use export default to export meets speed range requirements. Okay, so at the end, I can't imagine they want this. I'm just going to comment this out in case they want this here. Okay, export default meets speed. Let me copy this. It's requirements, and I'm going to put a semicolon at the end of that. We'll run it. Great, let's move on to the next lesson. Combining import statements. We can import the collection of objects and functions with the same data. We can use the import keyword to import both types of variables as such. Import curly braces specialty is vegetarian is sodium from /menu. Import gluten-free from .menu. Instructions. 1. Remove the import statement at the top of missioncontrol.js. Once you have removed import, change each variable to its original unaliased name within the rest of the file. Okay, so we're going to now redo what we just did. Now, everywhere it says aircrafts, paste that in. Everywhere it says flight recs, we'll paste that in. Everywhere it says meets staff recs, all the copies, paste that in. And everywhere it says meets speed recs, paste that in, and let's run it. No. I commented out the statement, so it shouldn't be working. I'm just going to remove it. Who knows if they want this to be on the first line? Let's run it. Okay, they wanted it just removed. At the top of the file, we'll now import all variables from the module. Use import to import available airplanes, flight requirements, and meets staff requirements between a set of curly braces. Import, get the curly braces out, and I know I have, no, I didn't have that one. Okay, so we'll take these first two, paste them in there, and this last one. From, and I think this was /airplane. Pretty sure. Let's go ahead and run that. Oh, I didn't do the second part of it. Import meets speed requirements. Okay. I'll put that here, and then we will import meet speed requirements from /airplane. And semicolon as well, and run. Great, that worked, and we'll move on to the next lesson. Review. We just learned how to use JavaScript modules. Let's review what we learned. Modules in Node.js are reusable pieces of code that can be exported from one program and imported for use in another program. Module.exports exports the module for use in another program. Require imports the module for use in the current program. ES6 introduced a more flexible, easier syntax to export modules. Default exports use export default to export JavaScript objects, functions, and primitive data types. Named exports use the export keyword to export data in variables. Named exports can be aliased with the as keyword. Import is a keyword that imports any object, function, or data. Let's see what's up next.